G'day and welcome back to the Keeping It Real AFL Fantasy Show. I am Coach Ace of the Spaceman, and as always, joined by Coach Nick of Nalvinator. Nick, something special about today's episode?
Yep, very special episode today. So thank you to all the fans for all the feedback that we've received. We've received feedback around the sound quality and also the lack of vision on the podcast.
Yeah.
So we've listened to the fans, we've had some investors, and we've been able to afford some fresh microphones.
Absolutely.
So yeah, very exciting episode.
Yeah, look, it's about time, particularly being our main platform being YouTube. I think it's important that we get some vision up there and the audience can finally put a face to the voices, you know? So let's jump straight into the round review.
Yep.
So we'll kick off with our draft league. So there was a big game this week.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the Cellar Dweller clash.
Yeah, Clash of the Titans.
So obviously the two people at the bottom of the ladder, it was the Spaceman against Lenny's.
Yeah.
Got it open in a tab somewhere. And it was Lenny's winning by exactly 100 points. So
Yeah, look, it was a game that I was looking forward to all year, particularly after round 3 when we were both undefeated. I wasn't too sure how many wins I was going to get. I was lucky enough to get a win last week, and I thought, maybe 2 on the trot against Lenny's. But unfortunately, through injury and suspension, I put forward an undermanned team, and Lenny's was just too strong in the end.
yeah. So I'm scrolling through the site. It all looks reasonably similar. You obviously lost by 100 points. He had Laird with 120, but you actually had Blake Acres, which we'll talk about later.
We will talk about that a bit later.
But 126 from Blake Acres, and someone does stand out to me in your midfield there. I wouldn't have thought he'd get a game in any other midfield in the league.
Well,
but I do also remember you saying that he was a up-and-coming star of the competition.
He is an up-and-coming star.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's talking about Sammy Durham, I assume. Essendon young gun, and I love the way this kid goes about it. He really puts his head over the pill and just tackles ferociously. You know, he's got that ticker about him that I really like in my young players, and wasn't planning on giving him much game time this season, but due to injuries to Bailey Smith, Jai Simpkin, and suspension to Taylor Adams, I had to call him off on the bench and put him on my field this week. And I thought maybe Anzac Day could be his coming-of-age game, but with a score of 32, he didn't quite perform, the young man. But I'm not disappointed. Like, don't expect much for your M9s, essentially. So, yeah.
So did you watch him close today? Was he on the wing?
He was playing on the wing, putting in the graveyard shift as a defensive wingman. But, yeah, he scored 14 points in the first 10 minutes. I did think I was on for a second there, but, yeah, he didn't do too well after that. But,
What was his game time? 32 points. 81%. He's just doing 150s up and down the wing.
I think he was just doing 150s up and down the wing. I'd love to see how many KMs he clocked up. But also in that game, Joshy Dacos, 108. He's putting together a career best season and proving why he was such a valuable pickup on my part. But then Jake also had Darcy Parish, Tommy Mitchell from today's game. And yeah, just too strong in the end, unfortunately.
Yeah. So another one that's let you down is Callan Ward. He obviously got suspended it was a sling tackle, wasn't it?
It was a sling tackle, and I don't think he got injured or anything. I didn't watch the Giants-Brisbane game, but a score of 38 also let me down. And what was otherwise a really strong forward line, and I'd like to talk about a young man by the name of Jake Waterman.
It's not that young.
Yeah, 2017 draft, that would make him a year older than
16.
me, so 25. 16, 17 was his first season. So he'd be about 24, 25. And I copped a lot of flack for picking up Jake Waterman. He's been
on and off the podcast.
On and off the podcast, particularly off the podcast. He's been averaging 87, putting together a career best season playing backup ruck, and got me a score of 99 as my F4. And you will take that every day of the week in what is slim pickings in the forward line this year. And to be fair, as long as Nick Nat's out of the side, I think he'll keep putting up those scores, Nick.
Yeah, 10 marks. No, very impressive. I got to say.
Eat your words.
No, not yet.
No?
It's a keepers league, so I'm not sure Jake Waterman's someone I'd want in my forward line long
He's
term.
in the prime of his career, man. Only got longer left to go.
I think
He's 25, mate. This is the prime of his career.
But no, hopefully he has many years left in his career. But I fear that with another ruckman coming back, they ideally don't want him as their second ruckman. So it is a friendly role for him for fantasy-wise, being able to get it up around the ground, tackle, and he took 10 marks on the weekend, I think. So
well, that's nothing unusual for Jake Waterman.
Yeah. No, impressive game, and I got to say, good pick for the now. Not sure about for the future.
Well, mate, when I've got as many injuries as I do, you just got to.
Yeah.
You got to.
No, fair enough. I will eat my words, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
fair play. Well done, Jake Waterman.
Cool. So let's jump into your matchup. So now, Nader, you were against Woods and Trashalanch Suck.
Yep.
So tell us what happened in that game.
Pretty comfortable win from Nelvinator.
Oh, yeah.
So
Nice.
I think I'm 3-3 now. But I pretty much was guaranteed the win when he had Ned Moyle as his starting ruck.
Oh,
so,
no. No emergency?
No, well, he's got Nankervis as obviously his starting ruck, but he got injured a few weeks ago. And in the meantime, he's put Ned Moyle on there.
So could he not go to the scrap heap and pick up maybe another ruckman floating around?
So that's what I would have thought. If I had Ned Moyle as my starting ruckman, I'd be looking through the scrap heap trying to find. I think there was Goldstein, Matty Flynn, Max Lynch was back. He was playing. Finlayson might have been there at one point.
Yeah.
But no, he left Ned Moyle, and I did make sure that there was very limited options. So I made
What do you mean when you said you make sure there were very limited options, Nick?
Well, I did notice quite early that he had Ned Moyle there, so I thought he's, most people would look at the scrap heap at the remaining rucks and who was there. So sure. I made sure I picked up a couple.
Oh, so you took
just
some
one.
players
Sorry,
out
one.
of his grasp purely so he couldn't get them.
Yep.
They weren't going to play on your field.
Yep.
It was purely so Woods couldn't go in and select a ruckman for his team.
You're implying that's...
I mean, I know
morally
at
correct.
the Spaceman we go through a moral and ethics course, and I also studied that at uni. I'm not sure if you did as well. I did fail ethics the first time I did it, but the second time around I got
fail?
I think it was your essay that I took a paragraph out of.
I don't think it was a paragraph, mate. But
Well, I thought I changed it enough, but turned it and picked it up. Anyway, yeah, so taking out the easy dub for Nalvinator.
But Matt Flynn will be back on the scrap heap very shortly, as soon as I can process the transaction. So Woods and Trashalanch, Matt Flynn will be there because I'm not sure Ned Boyle will be getting much game time now that Woods is back. So
yeah, I can also just see Nick Dacos in your team, and boy, what a pickup that was because you got him. Look, I thought you got him at the right time, but I think some pundits might have suggested you got him.
I was definitely criticised for Ashcroft going early.
Yeah,
but maybe a few comments about Dacos, I'm not sure, but he's clearly the best defender and he's going to be long term.
He's the best player in the comp.
Yeah.
So great pick up there, and
it was a much needed win from Nalvinator actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, very handy.
Well, speaking of much needed wins, let's take a look at the rest of the ladder. We've got Petwani Sniper sitting pretty on top.
Was that his first loss on the weekend?
No, he's had 2 losses.
Right, well, I see Tickle my Taranto, who is about to be a very special guest. Hopefully,
Is that
he
right?
actually calls this week.
I really hope so. Last week was a bit of a difficult one. I don't want to start asking you AFL players' heights again. I don't think anyone enjoyed that.
I'm happy to do it. By the way, if you're watching or listening last week,
God,
there was no vision last week, but if you're listening, I should have specified that it's AFL tables heights that I specialise in. So when you actually go back and look at my answers, a lot of them were incorrect on Google, but actually correct in AFL tables. Sam Wiedemann, perfect example.
Yeah, that's hogwash. Absolute hogwash.
Feel free to test me again if you want. I'm keen to go.
Mate, if Jeremy doesn't show up, we'll figure out something else. So Pet Money Sniper sitting on top, followed closely by Lincoln's selection of players and
They both lost this weekend, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. And Ryan WC.
Say it. Say it quickly. You don't sound it out like a 3-year-old, mate. Can you read?
Lance's Hole Destroyer.
Yes.
So they're all sitting 4 and 2, but it's the percentage that has Pet Money Sniper sitting pretty. But in terms of total points, Pet Money Sniper is also on top. Mm-hmm. For some reason, I thought Lincoln was sitting on there, but Launch's Hole Destroyer is falling.
Launch, mate.
Lance's Hole Destroyer is sitting second in total points, and Lincoln's selection as players third. As we progress down the ladder, now Vanada, you're sneaking into the top 5 there. Is it? What's playing finals in this league?
I have to check the settings. I think it's 4. No, it'd be 6, I reckon.
Yeah, I reckon it'd be 6. So you're playing finals at the moment, and look at Lenny's go. Oh no, Lenny's is second last.
Settings, league size of 10. Continue on, don't want to bore the listeners.
No, that's
finals
absolutely...
format top 5. How does that work? Be a few buys in there.
Yeah, probably.
So my 5th?
Yeah, you're 5th. So first place will probably have a bye week 1, which is, I know, what happens in the amateur football leagues. But top scoring this week was Asher Lanch, just nudging out Lenny's. Asher Lanch he's unlucky not to be on top. His team on paper, I mean...
He's down the bottom in total points, mate, wasn't he?
Yeah, but
he's had a big week, but
Caleb Sarong, Sammy Walsh was a great pick. There's a few question marks over him being out injured for the first month.
only for the nuffies, mate.
Jeremy Finlayson, 92, will take that. Stephen Canelio.
Was Will Phillips subbed out? Must have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, 39%.
Yeah, okay.
We disappointed with that.
Up. Yeah.
And he took out a win against Lincoln's selection of players. So, yeah, decent matchup. Asho got a win by about 80 odd points. Don't think Lincoln would be too disappointed with too many of his players. He's sort of just around the couple standouts, but most of the players are just getting around the 60, 70, 80 mark, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Lockie Weller.
Yeah, I want to talk a bit about Lockie Weller because he's putting in an excellent... Well, last week maybe a little mishap, but the week before he also scored big.
I could talk about Lockie Weller all day. So I traded him into my classic team 2 weeks ago after Will Day got suspended as a similar sort of price. And we mentioned last week to the listeners, the frequent listeners that know that we spoke about the thin ground at Norwood Oval, which made it tough for Lockie Weller and Will Power to take too many marks. But this week I didn't actually see the game at all, but 133 from Lockie Weller. Big part of my classic team rising up the ranks into the top 4K now, so very happy with that.
Yeah, nice. Highlights hunting.
Yeah, I am highlights hunting.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's against the Tigers next week, and I assume that will be at the G. So another wide ground for him to score lots of points on Lockie Weller. So let's jump into our round overview and everyone's favourite segment. That's right, it's Gurus, Prodigies and Heartbreakers. So, Nick, tell us about your Guru of the week.
I'll just check the run sheet. My Guru of the week... Oh, Paddy Cripps, of course. So
yeah.
He's been a bit of a disappointing draft selection for me.
He's always been a bit iffy in fantasy.
I think I got him around the... I don't know. I remember I was weighing up between him and Bont at the time.
That stings.
But went with Cripps, I think, anyway.
What's his average for the year?
Averaging 99.5.
Okay.
So just been boosted with his 126 this week. So that's why he's my Guru of the week. Who did
Yeah.
I play? I can't remember. Oh, Saints. I saw a bit of that game. Obviously a cracker. Saints are flying. Good to see. But yeah, Paddy Cripps, 126 is my Guru of the week.
Yeah, great pick. Great pick. This man's not in my draft team for my Guru, but I think he's in my classic. He is in my classic team, and I think he's in everyone else's classic team, and that's Connor Rosie. Now, he was against the depleted West Coast side, but he's putting together, I'm going to say it, Nick, a Brownlow caliber season. He's one of the best players in the competition. He's right at the cream of the crop. He gets touches, he puts his head over the peel, and he kicks goals as well. That's what we want from our midfielders. And he's all class. The way he moves, the way he slides. He's just a superstar of the competition.
Will he be a better player than Sam Walsh?
You know, I watched the Carlton Saints game on the weekend, and I also watched Walsh's first game against the Crows last week, and he, in my opinion, were Carlton's best players in both those losses. But the question being, will Rosie be better than Walsh? I can't tell you. I'm stumped. Okay. What do you think?
No, I'm stumped as well. I think that obviously there's a comparison with them being in the same draft, and Kane Corns labelling it pretty early that I think Connor Rosie has more X factor and Sam Walsh isn't a match winner. Then he took back those comments eventually, but
it's not like Cornsy to backpedal, is it?
I wouldn't have. No, I think he's true to his word. If he sees his opinion, he calls it. We both love Kane Corns.
I do love Kane Corns, but the Horn Francis controversy that went on the last couple of weeks, I'm firmly not on Corns' side. If you tuned into SEN on last Friday, there was some heat. There was some serious heat going on. But yeah, so Rosie, I'm going to say Walsh. I'm going to stick with Walsh.
I'm
got 30,
going to stay Walsh as well.
30 votes in the Brownlow and came fourth. Like, pretty stiff. Would have won it most of the
other
years.
I think Kilt Kane's original comment was he has more X factor, so I'd agree with that.
X factor. It's just a made-up word, mate. Like, Walsh is going to win you more games, I know.
Fair enough.
Alright, Prodigy. Child Prodigy of the Week. Now, Nader, who you got?
I gave him an honourable mention in his debut, but I think I ended up going with someone else. But Jacob Van Rooyen is my Rookie of the Week.
What a star.
Superstar young player.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what his score was at three-quarter time, but I think he didn't touch it in the third quarter. And if you heard Simon Goodwin speak after the game, he was basically about to sub him out. He was an ex-rotation, then he was going to get subbed. But then took that big hanger, kicked the goal, and then kicked another two, I think. So... Ended up with 50 points, but he would have, I don't know what he's on 3/4 time, but it would have made hardly any. But salvaged a really good score and looks a really good player.
Yeah, he's going to be an absolute superstar. And good management, I hear. Big Roo.
Yeah, no comment, mate.
Don't
get controversial on this.
So my prodigy of the week is I had a couple of young Hawthorn players to pick from, but I've gone with Seamus Mitchell, and he scored 68, nothing special. But for someone who I think was priced to 50 odd,
what did he get week 1 as well?
Week 1 he got 64, I think.
No, you just click match stats. I don't have to go.
It's match stats, mate. 64, yeah, mate, I'm a guru.
Consistent.
So yeah, and I was tossing up between him and Roberts from Sydney, and I feel like most people went Roberts.
Yeah.
But I jumped on the Mitchell bandwagon and watched a little bit of that game. Kid looks like a really good young player. So 68 on my field. I'll keep him on my field again this week. I'll be pretty happy for the next few weeks if he keeps getting those scores for sure. So yeah, here's my prodigy of the week.
Yeah, he's surprised a few, I think, because he was always a good running carry player. But I think we mentioned this about Wilmot, sort of. I didn't actually think he'd get that much of the ball, but he's scoring quite well for a rookie. So a good selection by you.
Love the name Seamus as well. You go, son. So we'll jump into our heartbreaker.
Oh yeah. So for me, easy pick. And it is concerning now with Max Gawn back in the team. Brodie Grundy got a 54.
That is really concerning.
I was following the dream stats. You know, the dreams. You might use fan footy.
Oh yeah. Fan footy. I haven't used that.
Yeah, I was following that, and the chat was going nuts about Grundy. And I think his time on ground at quarter time was 44%.
Wow.
So, not sure what they're doing there. I don't know. What did he finish on time on ground? 68. So well down on his previous weeks with Max Gawn there. And that's just a watch for me going forward. I've got Draper on the bench who's doing some good things. Who I'm happy with long term.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Max Gawn's in the team with Grundy, there's cause for concern for Nelvinator.
Well, I think there's some cause for concern for Grundy as well, because I believe he came across thinking that he'd be the predominant ruckman.
Yeah.
And doesn't seem like that role's playing out. And I feel like everyone in Australia could see this happening. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if anything unfolds in the coming months as we get towards trade period and see what happens.
I don't think any of them are going to get traded.
Well, mate, if his role continues to be not what he was promised.
Stop.
No, mate, why? No, talk me why Nuffy
Because he's just signed a X amount of year deal.
Hasn't stopped anyone before, mate.
Mate, stop it.
If he keeps being made second fiddle.
Embarrassing yourself.
Second fiddle. If he keeps being made second fiddle, mate, he's gonna have no other choice than to look elsewhere.
So how old's Gawn? 32.
Is he?
I don't know.
Maybe 30 flat. We'll do a quick little Google search.
You can click on
31. Grundy's not much.
Turning 32.
Yeah, but what's Grundy?
This is actually my other special skill. Grundy is 27.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's 29. You absolute.
He must have
you
just
have
turned
no
29.
special
He
skills,
just turned
man.
29.
No, he would have been 28.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
get it
just
with
saying.
1 year. I get it with 1 year and 1 centimetre.
No, that's rubbish, mate. It's not a special skill.
Who is your heartbreaker, Matt?
So my heartbreaker, look, stiff on the young kid, but I've gone for Harry Sheasel. So he hit the rookie wall this week, scored 48 or 47, something along those lines. 47. And, yeah, just, had a reasonably well-performing team this week and didn't really want to put it on anyone else. So, hope he continues playing. I've got mail that he was playing forward this week.
Yeah.
So that will break a lot of coaches' hearts if that continues to happen going forward and he puts in these scores. But if the reason was because Aaron Hall is back, I'd question that one, North. Because I feel like Sheasel is a much better player than Aaron Hall.
But he was drafted as a forward.
But he's tearing it up in the back line.
He is. And, it's interesting though, even for a keeper team, I was actually discussing with Tickle my Taranto about potentially trading for Sheasel. But then the thing is, if he's drafted as a forward, he could end up as a forward.
Yeah.
And there's not many sort of guys that sort of play that half forward role that are a good selection in fantasy.
No goals for Sheasel this week.
I was the male that told you he played forward. I think I saw it on Twitter. I'm not 100% sure.
But I could have just made a complete fool of myself.
So, yeah, we might have.
Anyway,
but I'm pretty sure he was playing forward.
We'll edit it out if it's not facts. So that wraps up the round overview. So should we jump into our special guest interview now?
Yeah, we're not even going to cut this. I'm just going to call him straight away. I said I'd call it 6. It's 5:59, so he should be
Well,
ready.
let's hope this one picks up unlike last week. Slightly calling someone to say they won $1 million.
I feel like I'm Hamish and Andy.
I feel like I'm on the Today Show.
Oh, this could be awkward. He doesn't pick up. Shit, mate.
You have reached.
Oh, what is your friend, mate? What's going on? Alright, so maybe we'll cut that out.
Tail between my legs now.
Alright, so we'll jump in and review our classic teams trades,
Yep.
which we were doing just
So
before.
lockout lifted just before we started recording.
And we did delay the recording by 10 minutes just so we could have a little play around. Look, for me this week, placeholder trades, I need to properly sink my teeth in.
Yeah, okay.
Just having a little
No,
yeah.
I thought it might have been a more nuffy one. That
No,
you mentioned
well,
before.
to be fair, well, I'll talk you through it. So, is it Chincotta? Is that how you pronounce his
I
name?
think so, yeah.
Yeah. So Alex Chincotta will come in for Cade Chandler, who I'm downgrading, along with Cam McKenzie. And so, yeah, bringing in a couple of rookies, Johnson and Chincotta. But the enough moves that you were talking about, look, my classic team's not going particularly well this year. No one's else's fault other than, injuries and things like that.
Couldn't be your
Yeah,
fault.
definitely not my fault at all. So I need to start looking at some left field moves. And so I'm thinking Jake Waterman did the job for me in my draft team. Why not get him in my classic team and just see what happens?
Price?
Mid-60s, 600s.
Okay.
Could have another 100k to earn if he keeps averaging 90, which he is. He's done me a solid this week. He could just keep doing me solids for the rest of the year. So that's what I'm thinking. The other one I was thinking about was Josh Shelley, averaging 92. The main thing that scares me this week is he's up against the Pies, and they're very strong defence, and probably Braden Maynard would go to him. But the double downgrade is probably the safe move. It's the predictable move. That's not the way the spacemen like to operate, As we've seen in my bold predictions and the other trades I've done this year in both draft and classic, I think a little differently. And as Luke Beveridge would say to Damien Barrett, well, I roll a bit differently, mate.
So it was perfect timing. Tickle,
Mate, how are we?
you're live on air.
Welcome, Tickle.
Fellas, thanks for having me.
No worries, mate. Thanks for joining us. It's actually nice to have a guest who will join us this week, because last week, I'm sure you heard that we had a no-show. So anyone who does dial in, we absolutely appreciate.
Oh, no worries, boys, no worries.
So we'll just get straight into it. Firstly, as Spaceman said, we really appreciate your time. I thought you were trying to say something.
No. Well, we'll just jump into it, Tickle. So your team name, Tickle My Taranto. Tell us why. Tell us how that came about.
Yeah, well, my old name was Big Dogs Only, but I felt like I needed a change, so it's a little bit of a play on words, I guess. But as you can see, he's still got his old jersey on, so I might need to look at updating that maybe next year, depending on how we go this year. But yeah, just something different, I suppose.
Do you have Taranto on your team?
Of course, mate, of course. Got to have him in the side.
Absolutely.
Absolute bull, isn't he?
He's killing the game. He's copying a bit of heat in the media, though, particularly from our mate Volcano.
Yep.
But you know what? As long as he's scoring me fantasy points, I don't care how good his kicking efficiency is. It's not super coach.
So I think this is a really good example of the name and having longevity. So Tickle My Taranto, Tim Taranto, what is he, 24, I think?
Yeah.
I'm confident in that, 24. Turning 25.
Actually, let's check that because your special
He's 24, turning 25.
He's 25.
Yeah, so he's just turned 25 in Jan.
You said 24, turning 25.
No, because
I'm not giving you any leeway. You have no special skills in this department, mate. You've got
I know
it wrong
his draft
twice
year.
already.
I know his draft year, which
So
means...
your special skill is people's draft year.
Well,
It's
okay,
not
whatever.
their ages, mate.
I meant he was either 24 or he's about to turn 25.
Excuse us, Tickle, but...
Anyway, so as I was saying, that's a good example of the longevity in a name, because
Yeah.
we were throwing up the name of the podcast at the start of the year, Flanders Keepers, but you apparently didn't rate Sam Flanders. But yeah, there's no doubt Tickle My Taranto is going to be a successful name going forward, so we love it. Next question for you, mate, is the draft strategy you had. So we noticed your team's got a few old guys, particularly in the back line. Was your strategy more to win now, or do you want to set your team up going forward?
Oh, definitely not. Definitely wanted to go youth. Never done the Keepers League, as I think a few of the boys haven't either. but it sort of, I don't know, I was late in the draft. I think I'm a pick 9 was my first pick, and I saw Steele, he was still there at pick 9, so I couldn't refuse that, so I picked him up.
It was a steal.
It's actually quite good.
And then obviously on the flip, we're doing the snake draft, so I had it pick 12, and Doherty was still there, which I was quite surprised at, to be honest. So I thought I couldn't refuse that either, so I jumped at him, and then from then onwards, it sort of spiralled. As you sort of stated, quite an old defence with Duncan in there and Hall as well. But I think, what else did I do? So I wish I went on a few more forwards, sort of lacking in the forward line. And obviously you'll see people grabbing the forwards, and it's quite thin, so missing out on a few there hurt. And then what else we had? Oh, Bon and Pelly, he popped up. I think I got it around pick 30.
Yeah, wow.
And I thought that was quite a steal going in. Another player work there. But Bon, Brownlow medalist. Well, you could be. So I grabbed him at about 30. And then I see a few of the boys were taking some younger players. Obviously, Nalvinato, grabbing Dacos.
Great pick.
Quite early. So I looked at Horn Francis. He was still there. So obviously he hasn't been quite the fantasy player that we're hoping for, but hopefully he's there, for a few more years to come and starts to really take over that midfield. What else do we do? But after that, three of my next 4 picks were players over 30. So from then on, it just sort of went no good, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I remember on draft night, there was a bit of a trend in your later picks when I think you realised you needed to go for some youth, and I think you went Jamal Ugle-Hagan, Sam Darcy, and maybe another high draft pick key forward that I can't remember off the top of my head. But I can't see any of them on your bench anymore. So what happened to them?
Yeah, you are right. I not quite sure what I was thinking. I think I grabbed a few number 1 draft picks thinking that might help me, but obviously it does not. So I took Darcy, Hagan, and Cadman.
Yeah.
But I was quite injury plagued to start off this year, so I had to quickly get rid of them and try and grab some players that are actually fantasy relevant into the side.
Yeah, I love just looking at your team. I love the pick of Harry Sheasel. So obviously he's been one of the, don't want to say the word again, but one of the steals of the draft, and we saw how well he's performed. Hit the rookie wall this week, as we discussed earlier on the podcast. But I've heard rumours that maybe there's a trade potentially happening between you and the co-host here.
Oh, yeah, obviously, Sheasel, got him very late, bit of an uncertainty, and obviously he's, started the off with the flyer, getting tagged on the weekend, though didn't help, but hopefully that's not going to continue. But definitely a bit of a trade. We were discussing the other day.
Do you want to talk us through it? Talk the fans through it?
We want to talk the fans through it. So I've got Doherty sitting on my bench at the moment, now obviously injured, and threw up Dunkley for Doherty trade.
Wow.
So a bit of a, two, obviously our first sort of picks in the draft.
You're forgetting the steak knives as well.
And then and then I've got Matt Kennedy sitting there on my midfield as well, so we're going to trade him out and potentially for Ed Langdon.
What are your thoughts on that now, Nada?
So that's been agreed to in principle without actually proposing it on the website yet. But the thoughts was that Doherty for Dunkley, in my opinion, wasn't quite even. I wanted a little bit more coming back, which is debatable, but I got Dunkley with pick 2 and he's a fair bit younger, so that was my opinion, so I sort of wanted a bit more thrown in. So Kennedy for Langdon, I felt I'd rather Kennedy, so bringing him in for Langdon, who's on my bench anyway. So that's been agreed to in principle, I believe, and I might be proposing that tonight.
Wow,
it was orchestrated by Tickle my Taranto, but I was happy to sort of begin talks because I've got a reasonable forward line bench with Caldwell and Dusty Martin, so I think that's going to get done.
Will that be the first trade?
I think so, yeah.
Wow, well that's really exciting for the league then. I hope that one goes through. So just moving forward, Tickle. This is Coach Jeremy of Tickle My Taranto. I don't think we stated your name was Jeremy at the start of the podcast. So, how has the start of your season been? How you getting up in the win-loss department?
I think after this weekend, I'm sitting even 3 wins and the 3 losses. Hopefully, middle of the table somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm
sitting
sitting 6
6.
quite a look yet, but
Yeah.
Hey, what was that?
Looks like you're sitting 6 on my ladder.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we would take that. Obviously, it would be nice to be sitting higher, but I have been absolutely shot with injuries to start this year off. I had a look before, a little bit of research. Of my first 10 draft picks in the draft, 6 of them have got injured to start the year off.
Oof,
so
wow.
to just be sitting 6 is probably not too bad after all that.
Yeah, no, you'll certainly take that, and I'm sitting on the bottom of the ladder, so certainly looking up to you there. So I'm sure you've been following all the other teams closely, and you were paying close attention on draft night. I was just wondering, whose team do you see as the most competitive this season, other than yours, of course?
Of course, other than my own. I had 2 I couldn't really split personally. It was Lance's Hole Destroyers.
You
and
said that
Logan
so
on
nice.
Kenobi.
That's how you pronounce the name. It's not that hard.
But yeah, I like both their teams. I think their midfields are really strong, and obviously plenty of youth in there. So I think that they'll go quite a long way in the next few years.
Yep.
Common theme there with our guests, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing we wanted to touch on was your classic team, just quickly. You are a renowned classic guru. So you won our league last year, and you're currently winning or leading total points at the moment. So your classic team, always very strong. Is this correct? You're ranked 674th?
Whoa!
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, currently ranked the 674. Yeah, I love the classic. It was good to expand and start getting into the draft as well, but the classic's my bread and butter.
It's been the hardest.
Won the league last year.
Mm.
And,
I actually received. Sorry to cut you off, but you mentioned winning the league last year. I actually
yeah.
received word from you that you were absolutely filthy that you didn't quite receive the full payment that was agreed at the start of the year.
You are kidding.
And I can't blame you, to be honest. I think Asherlanche was the main culprit of not paying. Maybe 1 or 2 others, but yeah, talk us through your feelings about not receiving the full payment.
Yeah, absolutely filthy with that. It was obviously you go in at the start of the year, everyone agrees on it, everyone's happy to play at the start of the year, but once it sort of whittles down to the end of the year and people aren't playing finals, they're not too impressed as well. And then they when the payment comes up, suddenly your 10 league team turns into 6 league team.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could not agree more, which is why we tried to get everyone to pay up front.
How'd that go?
Still not great. Waiting on.
Pull them out. 6 weeks.
I'm trying to think of the team names. Loby.
Asherlanche.
Don't get me started on Loby. Asherlanche, he reckons he's paying after Europe. I would have thought he'd have less money after Europe, but that's just me. And then also Lance's Hole Destroyer and Ryan.
So the Melbourne
what's
boy,
Ryan's name?
Ryan Waters.
Oh, Woods and Trashlash suck, and Lance's Hole Destroyer. They're the 4, so pay up, boys.
So the Melbourne boys and Loby won Kenobi.
Yeah.
You're on notice.
Yeah.
You're on notice.
I don't see any more questions on the run sheet unless you've got someone on the fly.
No, I don't, Jeremy. But yeah, just wanted to say again, thank you so much for joining us. Like we've mentioned it a few times, but after last week's incident, we'll call it, we've certainly got a new perspective on having guests on. So you've been so generous with your time. It's Tuesday night on a public holiday. I'm sure you've got better things to do, but to give us your time, we're just super appreciative.
No, fellas, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully down the line might be able to jump on again.
Oh, mate, absolutely.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks, Tickle. Appreciate it, mate.
Right, boys, take it easy.
Cheers,
See you
Tickle.
later.
Yeah, what a great guest.
Yeah,
really good
ripper.
insights.
I love that it's all live. This
All
whole thing,
live, no
films.
edits.
So all the people that have accused us of editing every single podcast,
We haven't
haven't
edited
done
one.
it straight, haven't edited any of them,
And this is proof.
Oh. Anyway,
All right.
we were just going through your classic team trades, and I think you were about to say something really nuff as the call came through. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I think it was around getting Jake Waterman to my side.
Okay.
I think we already spoke about it a little bit, but as I was saying before Tickle came on, I've got to do something left field to get back into the game, and that might just be him or Josh Shelley. But yeah, so at the moment it's 2 double downgrade, Chandler out, Mackenzie out, Chincotta and Matty Johnson in.
Yeah. How much does that leave you in the bank?
It leaves me with 458 and a team value of 18 mil.
Right. No, fair trades. I think, you would have been in an awkward position just downgrading one in terms of cash. So my team value is 19 million, by the way. But anyway.
Oh, good for you, mate. Tell us about your trades, superstar.
So I'm able to get a rookie off my field. So Wilmot and Jinby, both been great servants of Nelvinator.
Yeah.
But time to go. So Wilmot down to Chincotta. And
I think Wilmot's score of 22 is...
Yeah. I'm not complaining. He's done his job very well. And then Jinby up to Will Day. So Will Day's back in Nelvinator after trading him out for Lockie Weller, who's
interesting. That is. Now I'm not sure how I feel about this because I feel I was crucified last season when I did something similar with Brad Hill.
I wouldn't call this similar, but
but it didn't work out well for me. I think it may work out well for you. But yeah, I'm excited to bring Will Day back off my bench where he's been sitting for the last 2 weeks. Do you have any other options, or is it always going to be Will Day back into the side?
No, well, with his price at 727,000, I couldn't quite go up to like a superstar mid. So
yeah,
his break even's still low. So I think it's just the right trade to make, regardless of him being in my team in the first place. I think it's just the right move. So that's what I'll be doing at this stage, at least.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that at all. So there are classic team trades for the week, and now I'm very excited to get into this next segment. It's our bold predictions. So let's start by reviewing our bold predictions from last week. Nick, we'll start with you. Your in firm quotation marks bold prediction was Rory Lobb to kick 4 goals.
I think it was 3, wasn't it?
3, yeah, that's very bold of you.
No, it was 4.
To be fair, he almost did it.
1 goal, 3.
Yeah, he almost did it.
And he took a mark that was not 15 as well. So, should have been 5, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, that one obviously didn't come off, so that leaves you 1 and 5 for the season.
Yeah.
Let's talk about my bold prediction.
Yeah.
And I've been, as I mentioned before, I've been bold with my predictions. I've been as bold as you can be. I went after Blake Acres. I had him in my crosshairs. And I said that against his old side, he was going to score 110 plus. And he's only scored 100 once this year. And I'm pleased to say that my bold prediction paid off. With a score of 126, Blake Acres put in career high disposals, I want to say. I think he got like 36 disposals or something like that. But looked all class out on the wing. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done for the Blues, but I'm just glad to get my first prediction right of the year after a couple of nail-bitingly close predictions with Jakey Stringy and Luke Jackson.
Is this right? He had...
Hasn't updated
No,
yet.
but like his previous before that was 30.
Must be.
Is that true?
Must be. Well, mate, he was playing for you.
In that final, I thought he got 27.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Very bold.
So yeah, we both sit at 1 and 5 for our predictions for the year.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the close ones don't count, no matter how bold they are. So I've had to live with that. But tell us about your bold prediction this week.
So a lot of talk in the media at the moment about Carlton. Went down to the Saints. Harry Mackay's goal kicking and just not being in great form, and even Charlie as well. So I think they're going to bounce back and kick 10 goals between them next week. I'd say that's bold.
So Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow, the 2 reigning Coleman medalists, against West Coast's completely depleted backline. We've only got Tom Barras as a key defender down there. And they're both going to kick 5 goals at least, or they share 10 goals between them, I believe, is a prediction.
How many times in AFL history has 2 key forwards combined for 10 goals?
Well, if you look at the corresponding game last year against West Coast and Carlton at Optus Stadium, those 2 fellas actually did it.
They kicked 10 to that?
They kicked 10 between them, both kicked 5. And that was when West Coast had 2 key defenders playing. So, and have a even more depleted side this year. So if you actually did a bit of research, you'd see that it's not a bold prediction, it's a, that's probably going to happen prediction in my books. So, look, it's been a theme of your bold predictions this year to be like the, probably, or that's likely prediction, not the bold prediction. As you'll see with my predictions, Jake Stringer to kick 4 after coming off a score of 30. Luke Jackson in the meter all week, going to score 100, end up scoring 93. That was a great prediction. Blake Acres last week.
No, we don't care about going through every single one of yours. How many times in AFL history has 2 key forwards combined?
Well, when the 2 that you're doing did it last year against the same side.
Might have been the only time ever.
Nah, I'm sure Quinton Lynch might have cried back in the day. Not those two.
What do you want me to do? You want me to say?
No. Look, mate. I'm not going to ask you to change. I just want you to know that I think our fans around the world think.
You're waiting to get that.
Yeah. That's just that's probably going to happen.
I'm trying to because I'm not going to be able to Google stats around how many times they've done it in their career, but I don't reckon they would have done it more than 3 times in their career playing together. That's an absolute guess. But that's my opinion. Unless you find a stat. I don't know how I'd find a stat unless I scroll through AFL tables.
We can ask Swamp. We'll see if he gets back to us. But look, you stay with your prediction. It's a prediction.
I think it's bold.
It's a prediction. It's not a bold, it's a prediction.
I think it's bold.
It's a most likely.
Tell me yours then.
So, my bold prediction is talking about my mate Riley O'Brien in the ruck.
Okay.
So, you made a similar bold prediction to this a few weeks ago about Sean Darcy against West Coast.
Yeah.
And the West Coast undermanned rucks, and you said he was going to score 110 or 120.
I said 120 plus.
Yeah, so not very bold against the backup ruck. I'm going Riley O'Brien against Collingwood's non-rucks to go 140 plus.
That's bold, but I'm telling you it's not going to happen.
Well,
I think that's a 1% chance of happening.
Well, that's why we do the bold prediction, and that's why we're here.
5%.
Oh, mate, you don't change your mind.
I'll say 5%.
5%.
Do you guys? So Billy Frampton's played ruck his whole life.
Yeah.
Until this year he's played back.
That's why it's a bold prediction.
I'm just saying it's not going to happen.
He actually played a bit of back when he was at Adelaide, but that's fine.
In his last year.
Yeah. Bold prediction. Riley O'Brien, 140 plus. We'll see how your prediction goes. I'm not going to call it bold.
I'll say yours is... I was going to say yours is more bold than mine. I reckon it's just more bold than mine.
The stats wouldn't suggest that.
Riley O'Brien has had 140 points in Dream Team the same amount of times as these 2 have kicked 10 goals between them, I reckon.
Yeah, but the 2 that kicked 10 goals between them did that last year and against now an even more depleted backline.
Well, that's like saying the people that have versed Frampton or Bailey Williams or something have scored average this.
No, not people. They would be saying Riley O'Brien.
Okay, whatever.
But yeah, there are bold predictions for the week, and just looking at the run sheet that you kindly printed out for me,
yeah,
I think we've come to the end of our first filmed podcast.
Unless,
go on. I'm intrigued.
You want to give me one more height check?
Mate, do the fans around the world...
Mate, the fans were listening on Apple Podcast last week on their run, and they were very engaged. Their heart rate was going up in that segment.
Alright, so what did you say, AFL tables?
AFL tables database.
Okay. Bobby Hill.
177. Within 1 centimetre.
No. Because this is your special skill.
Yeah,
your special skill doesn't get a range.
That's not the question. If I said I know every AFL player's height within 1 centimetre off the AFL tables database, would you say that's a special skill?
It's nothing to brag about.
I'd say it's a special skill. There's a lot of AFL players.
Okay, so you said 177?
Yeah.
In 1 centimetre? Yeah. He's 175 according to
Really? That's very small.
It's just you getting questions wrong. That's what this segment is.
Alright, wrap it up, mate.
Alright. Wrap it up. Alright, thanks so much to everyone for joining us on the first film podcast. We'll be looking to do this for the rest of the year, I imagine now. Set the precedent. I'm sure it's going to be one of our highest ranking podcasts. I hope you enjoyed listening to The Rock last week as well. We forgot to bring that up.
It's great to get him last minute.
Yeah, it was actually great. Like, he came in
much
clutch.
better than Tickle my Taranto. No, I mean, Lobby one.
Lobby one. Tickle my Taranto
was great.
It was great, yeah. It's good that his agent was so kind of get in touch with us and make him free. So, yeah. See you all next week. And again,
like, subscribe.
No edits. Please leave a comment below. We love your feedback. Cheers.